Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring the Village Board meeting July 14th, 2025 to order. What is it, about 6:08? And we need a roll call of members present.
Venturini.
Here.
Karas.
Here.
Doxy.
Here.
Washburn.
Here.
Anastasio.
Here.
Bhatia.
Here.
DeGroot.
He's here. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is public comment. Members of the public are welcome to provide comments on any matter. Please listen for the president to recognize you. State your name and address for the public record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And again, I just want to make a distinction. We're having a public hearing tonight as well. I know a bunch of you have been are signed up for the public hearing comments. This part is public comment for, frankly, everything other than that item of business. We do have Olivia Hollister. If I could recognize you, come up to the podium. And I guess you wanted to speak about the county fair.
Hi, Village of Mount Pleasant. My name is Olivia Hollister, and I'm excited to be participating in the Racine County Fair this year. I've been working hard over the past 4 months to raise and care for 2 high-quality pigs, and I'm thrilled to showcase the results of my dedication and effort. I've learned so much about responsibility, discipline, and animal care, from selecting top-quality feed to managing a clean and healthy environment. I've made sure my pigs received the very best care. My pigs Julie P, a Spot, and Petunia Pickle, a York, currently weigh over 250 pounds each. I walk them almost every day to ensure they're healthy, friendly, and well-muscled. Both gilts are social, sweet, and have never needed a vet visit while under my care. I would be honored if you would attend the Junior Swine and Swine Showmanship judging on Thursday, July 24th at 9 a.m. and the livestock auction on Saturday, July 26, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. at the Racine County Fair. Your support, whether attending, bidding, or simply just cheering us on, means so much to me and my pigs. Thank you for considering supporting young exhibitors like me. If you have any questions or would like more information, please feel free to contact me at CoreyASmall@gmail.com or 262-939-822. I would truly appreciate your interest and hope to see you at fair.
Thank you, Olivia.
I don't think this is this young lady's first fair, is it? I know my daughter showed in fair years ago, and I know the name Hollister. You guys are pretty. It's her first. Well, have fun.
Olivia, I just have one question. When you walk your pigs, do you use like a leash or something?
It's actually called a whip. It's like it kind of looks like a stick.
Okay. Thank you.
Best of luck.
Anybody else wish to speak publicly about any matter? I have nobody else signed up. If that's the case, we'll close public comment and we'll move on to the next item, which is consent agenda. Trustee Bhatia.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. We'll just take a voice vote for this. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that that motion is passed. So from here, we get to move down to public hearing. Public hearing regarding ordinance 6-2025 zoning map amendment for the 7003 and 7222 Brown Road. Following a brief presentation by the staff, I'll open up the public hearing. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public hearing form, which is on the table near the entrance. Once recognized, speakers should come to the podium up there and identify themselves with their name and address. Please speak clearly into the microphone. Speakers must direct all discussion towards the board. I will not allow interchange between members of the audience and the petitioner. We'll hear from the petitioner as well. We request that you not interfere with nor interject comments while another person has the floor, and this is to ensure a respectful and orderly process. Please keep all comments on the particular item before the board and at most 5 minutes. And finally, to ensure a focused and productive hearing, please turn off or mute your electronic devices, cell phones and whatnot, so we don't have that distraction. Sam, if you would.
Mr. President, trustees, the applicant applied to amend the zoning map for property from AG2 to RH, high-density residential. The applicant originally applied for the RH1 zoning district. However, the village board renamed that district to RH with ordinance 09-2025 on June 23rd, 2025, which occurred between the time of application and the village board's consideration tonight. While renamed, the RH1 and RH zoning districts have largely similar development regulations. The Plan Commission reviewed the map amendment at its meeting on May 21st. The applicant proposed a 618 market rate residential development concept with sites for detached 2-unit and multi-unit buildings. In 2024, the village board signed a development agreement with the property owner, which contemplated a residential development with approximately 600 units. This application is currently in the early stages of the development entitlement process. The village board approves the zoning map amendment. The property owner must subsequently apply for preliminary plat approval from the village board, submit civil engineering and stormwater plans for Public Works Department consideration, apply for final plat approval from the village board, and submit site and building plans for Community Development Department review. The Plan Commission recommended at its meeting that the village board approve ordinance 6/2025, 7003 and 7222 Braun Road zoning map amendment, ZMA 25-5. There's a couple maps that you have in your packet that you can reference as I walk through. Consistency with the comprehensive plan. The application aligns with the land use element of a multi-jurisdictional plan for Racine County 2035, which recommends residential areas including churches and multifamily for the subject property. Previous county plans before the village's incorporation identified this area for various developments. A 1987 county plan identified the sites along State Trunk Highway 31 east of the subject property for a business park development. A 2003 plan identified this area as a location for traditional neighborhood development, which is defined by Wisconsin Stat 66.10271C. In 2005, during the early development of the nearby Regent subdivision, the entire property considered tonight was zoned M1 manufacturing. Since at least 2008, the plan has recommended the area north of Braun Road as residential areas, including churches, multifamily, shifting to industrial and then commercial development as you move further northwards. The concept plan shows the roadway connections identified within the transportation element of the plan, albeit in a slightly different north-south configuration. The applicant must address those differences or apply to amend the comprehensive plan during that platting process that I previously discussed. The Village of Mount Pleasant Master Bicycle Plan 2030 identifies a trail along Braun Road that the future development must install as a condition of land division or site plan review. Park and Open Space Plan for the Village of Mount Pleasant 2050 recommends protecting the environmental corridor at the property's northeast corner. Any future development must protect this area as permanent open space. The village board could accept the environmental corridor as a portion of proposed Park Site 4 identified in the Park and Open Space Plan to offset a portion of the development's park impact fees per the ordinance and subdivision rules. Also, taking aside from the narrative, we've received a lot of staff questions of people calling in to ask about the connection east-west for Biscayne. Some people were a little bit confused about that. And I can clarify that the connection for Biscayne has been shown on the comprehensive plan from connecting State Trunk Highway 31 all the way west to a future Oaks Road extension since before I've been at the village and since to my knowledge, some of the earlier comprehensive plans in the 2000s. That said, to our understanding, the Biscayne would not connect through as a part of the subject development for zoning consideration tonight. So there is still that about a 500 feet of farm parcel in between the Regent subdivision and the east side of the subject properties. And then there's some farm fields between west that would also have to continue this, but this development would not make those connections at this time. Moving forward, the village staff will complete a fiscal impact analysis upon the submission of any land divisions or site plans for review as part of our normal development application process. And the applicant, from a neighbor communication summary, the applicant mailed neighbors a summary of the development on July 8th. The staff attached the letter, mailing list, and example date stamps that the applicant provided to staff to the packet that you have, and inform the applicant to provide any concerns raised by neighbors and specific changes, if any, that were considered or made as a result of the neighbor communications. You can certainly ask them about that tonight. In terms of the review process, this follows the Division 90-530 zoning map amendments review process, which I won't read verbatim, but is in the ordinance. With that, that's my summary. I can answer any questions either now or when we get to the deliberation process after the public hearing.
Yes, let's wait until we motion this into the board. Thank you, Mr. Schultz. I'd like to hear from the developer, because this is your time to speak as well. And tell us what we need to know, because we've got a room full of people here, and they want to feel good about your development, I think. But they've got a lot of questions. So whoever wants to speak, if you want to both go up or all three go up, it's all good to me. All four.
My name is Ryan McCray. I'm with Cardinal Capital Management, along with Uramillo LLC. We are the developer. Cardinal's been doing multifamily housing for 25 plus years. We do a mix of affordable, supportive housing and also market rate housing. We did bring our architect by Shally with Continuum Architects with us today. She's going to give you a little bit of breakdown of what this property is going to consist of. Trade.
Sure. So I'll just run through the concept design really quick. So here's Braun Road on the south side. A couple of things that we try to take into consideration. There is an existing single-family home right there. There are some wetlands to the north, and this is the connection to Biscayne that Sam was talking about. One of sort of our overarching themes was to create a development where you kind of meander through the site a little bit. It's a large site, so we wanted to make sure that we create an experience that's a little bit softer as you navigate through the site, and also designed in a way that they're separated enclaves, if you will. So some of these major streets that you're seeing are really creating little pods of residential development. So it just breaks down the scale of the site a little bit. Right at the entry, we created 2 entries because we wanted to avoid a bottleneck of one entry along Braun Street. But either entry, we've located some stormwater management up in the front over there. So the experience of kind of coming into the site can be a little bit softer, a little bit more pleasant with the landscaping buffers and all of that. And as you enter the site, because of this single family condition, we've created duplex lots. So in terms of scale, it's a gentle transition from the single family to the duplexes. And also these pink buildings, those are 2-story apartments. So basically what that means is every unit on the upper level and the lower level has its own individual entry. So it's a little bit more intimate scale than a bigger building, because each of those units have unit entries, they have their signage, they have their landscaping, a little bit of entry patio, and creating really spaces where those patios on the first level can start to connect with the sidewalks of the street. Thinking about how to create a little bit more social environment in the development, creating opportunities for neighbors to kind of talk, sit down, socialize, interact with one another. So those edges are pretty much what defines most of those streets that we've designed. So either way, whichever entryway you take, you sort of experience that social space as you, and it's a 2-story, so it's a little bit more residential scale. Both of those streets kind of lead to a central point, which is the clubhouse, and it's sort of sized for the entire development, which has all of the amenities for the development, outdoor pool area, barbecue areas, picnic areas, tennis courts, as well as sort of a large stormwater management retention pond. And again, the pond will be all sized for the development, but the idea is that some of those spaces can really become that recreational heart of the development. And sort of as you move along, continuing to create those edges. Some of those single-family and duplex homes are also located along future connections to Biscayne. So as you come from Biscayne, you encounter some of those smaller, it's a more gentle transition to go from a residential neighborhood into the site. There are some of all of these pink buildings that you see are the 2-story versions, individual apartment entries. The bigger units, we've kind of located to the back of the site. There is an existing commercial a lot over here, which is pretty large in scale. So the thought was some of those big buildings, which are the 3-story buildings, they have an underground parking. So you would kind of ramp down and park under the building, and you would not be able to see the parking level. So what you see at grade level is the units and the patios that create walkout conditions at grade. So the parking is sort of entirely tucked under the building. So it just sort of reduces the impact, the visual impact of those big buildings. But some of those 3-story buildings are located at the outer edges, just to kind of create a little bit smaller scale in the heart of the development. So that's sort of the concept. If anybody has questions? Yeah.
Sorry, they iced me out a little earlier. I'm a partner on this project. My name is Lee Jaramillo, resident of Caledonia. I've been in development for over 20 years. I did some of the developments here in Mount Pleasant, working on stuff in Caledonia. So I definitely care about what you guys think in the meeting today. All we want to do is bring quality housing to the area, especially if I live here. I think I still got some time left in my life to make sure I don't screw things up around here. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to take direct questions. I'm not going to have the crosstalk. I can't do that in this meeting. So if you want to excuse yourself, we'll get on to hearing from the public.
Thank
you. So now's the time for the public to weigh in. We've got a number of people signed up, so let's get rolling with that. Tony, and I don't want to screw up your last name, 6555?
Yes. Tony Wazorek, 6555 Carnation Drive. My concern is, I might borrow this a second. This is the drive that will extend down into our subdivision, right? So when this was planned, we were all okay with it. We knew that there would be subdivisions on the other side of it. It was the plan, right? Now it's changed. So now we're looking at the majority of the amenities within the Regent are over here, right? The Menards, the Home Depot, the fast food. So they will have a choice to go down and go to Braun and go all the way around and come in here, or go through our subdivision. And our subdivision isn't scaled to have 1,000 cars go through there daily. And that's what's going to happen, because they're going to come down here and they can take the shortcut here, or they can come all the way around, which they're not going to do. So instead of having a couple of hundred homes here. Now we're looking at a few thousand cars that are going to be here. And that's my concern. We're not scaled for that, right? And I think that's my only real concern. We realized that eventually there was going to be construction there, right? The road didn't dead end and it wasn't going to stay cornfields forever. We get that, right? But not this, right? And then there's more fields. So is there going to be more construction of the same type? So now I don't know, but we could double or triple that. So now we have many thousands of cars that are going to be coming through our poor subdivision. We're not scaled for that. We're not KR. It's not the kind of road that we have. So guys, that would be my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Folks, can we hear from Dixit, 6536?
Hi, my name is Dixit Patel. I live on Biscayne Avenue. I have a same concern about the traffic on Biscayne Avenue, because if they build that many apartments or houses, we're going to see like 1,000 cars a day, and we don't want that on Biscayne Avenue. So that's my concern for today. Thanks.
Appreciate it, thank you. How about Royce Markey?
My name is Royce Markey, 655 Carnation Drive. Like what Tony and the previous talker was saying, I was looking at the number of units compared to the size and everything. 98% are not single family. Only 9 are considered single family, and they're small, they're 1,300. So the type of housing is high density, and then you can throw the word luxury in front of it, it's all high density. And I know that immediately we're not connecting to Biscayne, but just like everybody else, because we're talking about 618 units, and we take roughly 1.5 of that, meaning each number of cars per unit or whatever, let's say 1.5 cars per unit, we're approaching that 1,000 car volume, just for that development alone, and not to add in the other developments that are coming too. So people traveling twice a day, so that is looking at 1,000, 2,000, so none of these numbers are exaggerations. I also have a dispute as far as that is not a lot of green space. The village, the community, the county has gone through as far as restoring the Pike River. We have a beautiful trail along there. I don't understand why we have a development that's high density right next to the trail. I think there's an environmental impact. I think it will make it subject to having too many people contributing, and we're going to have issues with people, pollution, garbage, crime, that sort of thing. I just feel that this is way too many units in a small space like that. You see streets, you don't see trails, and I think an area like that that's next to the Pike River should be more upscale as far as trails, park area available, things like that. I think the village is losing a golden opportunity to develop a showcase area. We have that Pike River that people ride bikes on now, and now suddenly they're going to be seeing 2-story, 3-story, and so forth. We're going to see a lot of density. The development can talk about, oh, we're going to be neighborly with just having people right there. No, it's too many units in too small of a space, and it's not balanced. So I have an issue with that too. Not just the amount of volume that changes the whole feel, and Tony and the other gentleman were correct. When the development was proposed to us, we were told it would be another type of subdivision like ours, and so forth. And it's already setting up. You got the first one going in, it's gonna be easier for the second one, and we're just gonna have more and more volume and more issues.
Can I hear from Beth Zuberbuehler?
My name is Beth Zuberbuehler. I live at 6325 Biscayne Avenue. I'm one of the first houses when you first go in the neighborhood. I I didn't have time to write down everything I wanted to. I have 3 young kids. Just thinking about the number of kids in the neighborhood, just the first 4 houses closest to 31, there are 9 children 10 and under. Just in those first 4 houses, not alone, not in the whole neighborhood. There are no sidewalks. It is a residential street, not meant for 1,000 cars to be going by. There are like kids everywhere. And the reason I'm like, find this to be really frustrating is because I actually used to live on 90th Street directly across from that development. And I came and had all these conversations and watched you sit there and not care about, I don't mean to be whatever, but it really feels that you don't care about the residents that already live here. It's only about bringing more residents here for, and I understand that, but like you need to care about the residents that do live here, or else you're gonna lose those residents too, because people are already talking about moving. And over there, at least, there are sidewalks on 90th Street. That other neighborhood does not connect straight through. There's no reason for cars to go flying straight through. As I think it was Tony mentioned, if I'm at Target and I live in those apartments, why would I go all the way around to Brown Road to go into that development? I'm gonna turn into Biscayne and go flying through. I'm very confused because Sam tried to make a comment saying that it will not connect, that that's some type of thing that he's trying to make sure that we don't think it's gonna connect, that it's really just to Oaks Road, but it's not gonna connect to the development. But then she literally pointed, actually not to Biscayne, that wasn't Biscayne, and said that it will connect through. So I'm confused, and we weren't allowed to ask her questions, so I don't know like which it is. Will it connect or will it not connect?
We'll get into that when the board discusses.
Cool. Well, but I wanna know. I mean, I live there. You don't live there.
Stay for the rest of the meeting.
So, I mean, okay. So that one over there, there's no reason for those neighborhoods to get as affected by people coming through. It is coming off a main road. In this case, this is a residential neighborhood. Our kids are riding their bikes in the street. We all know each other. Like, it is not meant for, like, as they mentioned, 1,000 cars a day. Just this morning when I left, I think I saw the remnants of an accident because it's already pretty hard to get out of there as it is with just the houses that we have there. You gotta wait to get out of there. So I can't even imagine, let alone the number of accidents that are at Braun and 31 and Karen 31 where somebody, where there's a problem all the time. So I just struggle because if I'm at Target and I live in those apartments, I'm not going around. I'm gonna go through the neighborhood. And that is a concern for me and everybody else. And then is Oaks supposed to be, like, what I guess I'm hoping that you're saying that Oaks is supposed to be somewhere in between this and that's a separate Biscayne that's not connecting, that we're just still calling Biscayne? That's my question. Just putting that out there. Or is it going through? And then, I mean, even Braun Road, how do you intend to handle 1,000 cars? It's already dodging garbage cans as it is too. So I'm not really sure, I get frustrated that we're gonna vote whether they're allowed to do it and then try to solve these problems later when it's already said and done, because in 2024, a promise was made with the landowner that we would have a development. Like, you're trying to solve the problems after you say okay to it. Shouldn't we know what it is before you say okay to it?
Again, we'll get into those.
Again, you keep pushing off people's concerns, so I want you to care about us who live there. So I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be confrontational. So those are, is it connecting? We have so many kids in the neighborhood. It is a residential street. There's not sidewalks. It's not meant for this, as they mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, can I hear from Ross Braid? And if Megan is nearby, you're on deck.
Ross Bray, 3718 Blossom Drive. I understand the comprehensive plan shows the area as residential. But what's proposed tonight is not a typical neighborhood growth. It's a massive high-density project, 618 rental units, 3-story buildings. That's urban level intensity. Being dropped into this that has always been farmland, quiet, close-knit community. Mount Pleasant's strategic plan talks about protecting open space, preserving the natural environment, and maintaining the community's character. It says the village should develop in a way that is orderly, transparent, and consistent with resident values. Contradicts all of that. It would change the scale and feel of the whole village overnight. There's been no clear demonstration that the infrastructure, roads, services could support this influx, and no plan to preserve green space or soften the impact. We are not against thoughtful growth, but this project is not that. I urge you to deny the rezoning, or at a minimum, delay this vote until proper studies are shared and more appropriate, lower density plans are considered. Thank you.
Okay, can we hear from Megan? Megan Bray?
Do the opposite. Okay, hi, my name is Megan Bray, and I live at 3718 Blossom Drive. I had a lot to say, and I thought I only had 3 minutes, and I practiced and I cut it down, but here we are. I'm a third-generation Mount Pleasant resident, and I care deeply about the future of this village. I want my children to return here. I'm speaking today to oppose the rezoning of agricultural land between 2 working farms. Matt's Produce, anyone? For a 618-unit high-density residential development. Let's pause and consider that number, 618 units. For context, 5 local developments range between 228 and 280 units. The Seasons, which is just across the street, is 280 units. What you're proposing is over double that density. Several of them are within 2 miles of what you're already building. This level of density is unprecedented in Mount Pleasant. And actually, when I talked to the builder, the contractor, he couldn't tell me where else they've built developments of this size, except for maybe they might have one on the deck for Madison. This isn't a gentle addition. It's a tidal wave of traffic, infrastructure strain, and disruption to the rural suburban lifestyle many of us chose and still value. Let's be clear, this is not just another neighborhood. This is a massive, high-density build-out cramming over 600 homes into roughly 60 acres. That's not rural development, that's urban density. And it does not belong in the middle of active farmland or in a community built on balance between green space and growth. Developers show glossy and inaccurate renderings, but how will this look in 30 years? Will it reflect the character of Mount Pleasant or become a burden on taxpayers and infrastructure? Am I gonna have Georgetown with shootings and crime in my backyard? These developments strain water, sewer, roads, and emergency services. Impact fees don't cover long-term operations. Residents do. Mount Pleasant is changing fast and in many heartbreaking ways. If we keep rezoning farmland without a coordinated plan, we risk becoming a patchwork of sprawl and congestion, not a thriving community. This proposed development brings 618 tightly packed units on just 60 acres. And we have to ask, who is this really for? Is it for the families already here, the homeowners who moved here for space and peace of mind? That's why I left Racine. Or is it designed to attract short-term renters coming from Milwaukee or Chicago looking for cheaper options just off the interstate? And if that's the case, what does that mean for community investment, for neighborhood cohesion, for long-term stability? Because here's the truth, people aren't moving to Mount Pleasant to live like they're still in the city. If we start building like Milwaukee, we will become Milwaukee, and once we cross that line, we lose the unique charm that makes Mount Pleasant special in the first place. Who benefits from this development? It's not the families that are living here, it's not the farmers, it's certainly not our wildlife or our ecosystems. People choose Mount Pleasant for a reason, and it's not because we want to live shoulder to shoulder like Milwaukee or Chicago. They come here and stay here because of our open spaces, our balances between farmland and neighborhoods, our quiet roads, and our strong sense of community. Families move here for breathing room, not congestion. They want privacy, not density. They're looking to plant roots, not squeeze into high-density rentals with minimal green space. Do we really want our community to become a place where developers come first and residents come second? If we allow this rezoning, we send a message that we're willing to sacrifice our farmland, strain our schools and our roads, and abandon our village identity. And for what? A quick developmental deal? Because they thought Foxconn was coming? Yes, growth is important, but growth must be responsible, thoughtful, and sustainable. This proposal is none of those things. It's short-sighted, it's profit-driven, and it's deeply out of step with the values of this village. I am not opposed to all development, but I'm opposed to reckless rezoning that sacrifices long-term community well-being for short-term gain. This is a defining moment for our village. The decision you make will echo for decades. Vote no on the rezoning, protect what makes our village worth living in, no to building 618 high-density units on 60 acres of agricultural land, no to short-term decisions that create long-term problems. Yes to thoughtful, measured development that protects both our farmland and our future. Let's make the hard right choice, not the easy expedient one. And since I have more time and I couldn't ask, every time she wants to talk about this, she's talking about coming off Braun Road. Well, we all live over here. So when I look out my window and see beautiful farmland and a sunset, I will now see this 3-story building. So nothing has been softened for the people who live in the Regent subdivision. And I'm done.
Okay, can we hear from Matt Kramer, please?
My name is Matt Kramer, and I live at 2606 County Road V in Mount Pleasant, and am building on my family's farm at 7202 Brown Road, also in Mount Pleasant. I am a proponent of property rights, and while I am personally not in favor of these two developments, this one and the Bear one, adjacent to our family farm, I'm also not going to be hypocritical and stand up here and say that you should restrict their zoning. I am, however, going to urge you not to artificially make their development budget work using village funds or by using village mechanisms to take funding from us adjacent property owners. Already, the village provided a short-term loan for Cardinal to purchase the property. This isn't consistent with any typical Mount Pleasant provided service that I'm aware of. As you know, probably know, I'm rebuilding a house that was in rough shape. Already, the property taxes on that house and property have gone up 77% since I started work. I've increased Mount Pleasant's property base, tax base, but I assure you that the village never offered me a loan to do so. I bring this up for 2 reasons. The first reason is that Mount Pleasant is picking favorites. Mount Pleasant used public money to offer a sweetheart deal to one entity. It means that other parties interested in doing the same type of business are disadvantaged versus Cardinal, the developer that Mount Pleasant chose to offer the best deal to. No notices for public hearing came out as the village was inking a developer's agreement with Cardinal. This was just the will of a select handful of people at Village Hall working in closed-door sessions. It's unfair business, and additionally, the village has a history of choosing bad projects to incentivize. The Foxconn project, in which the village worked to bully landowners off their property for what is now underutilized, is an example that should be written in residents' minds until the village board turns over. The second reason is that if this is going to be profitable and financially sustainable development, then why wouldn't the banks be competing for the opportunity to finance the property purchase as a profitable opportunity? It's an out-of-the-gate red flag that perhaps this development isn't financially sound and may be destined to have a high vacancy, which could force lower rents, making the whole thing difficult to keep maintained and filled with high-quality renters. Low-budget maintenance and low-rent tenants will surely drop our property values and make the area bad to live in. On top of the loan to buy the land, I'm under the impression Mount Pleasant has agreed to pay for the sanitary from the site to a connection point down by Pike Creek. If this is such an opportunity for the village, then why is this cost to be the village's burden? The residential growth will undoubtedly bring up other infrastructure type improvements that I see down the road. Widening, curb and gutter, and road extensions are all likely downstream effects. As you plan these things and contemplate where the funds should come from, note that the surrounding residents, particularly on Brown Road, don't want any of it. Your front foot charges and eminent domain will not be met with smiles and checkbooks, but we will fight it as hard as we can. Lastly, a couple things to say to other fellow Mount Pleasant residents. Most of you are here to contest the rezone based on how out of place this development will be to this site. However, please note the finances as well. This is not a tax increment district. Any incentives, including cheap financing and infrastructure that I've mentioned, along with any other incentives that we don't know about, are coming from one of two places, either from public coffers that shouldn't be drawn upon to help private development, or from mechanisms that will be pushed onto us via special assessments or eminent domain. Thanks for your time and attention.
Can I hear from Wendy on Blossom Drive?
My name is Wendy D. Prospero. I'm at 3742 Blossom Drive, and I am the last house before this wonderful apartment building. This is about money. Y'all, the village is hundreds, if not millions and billions of dollars in debt from the Foxconn from 2018. Don't balance the budget on our backs. We are a quiet neighborhood, like everyone keeps saying. Also, rumor has it that between Summers and Mount Pleasant, y'all are in a race for 50,000 residents. I don't know if it's true or not, but looking at this, it kind of makes me wonder that maybe it is true. This RH zoning, quote unquote, intended to be applied only to areas with excellent transportation, transit, or access to major highway corridors. That's not round. So the workaround is our neighborhood through Biscayne, and like she said, we were first told it's not gonna connect by wherever Sam is. You guys say it's gonna connect. It's gonna connect at some point, I'm sure. Who knows? Hopefully we'll hear later. Our neighborhood is quiet. Moms and dads push babies, walk dogs, kids learn to ride bicycles. Residents in our group home in our neighborhood ride their wheelchairs in the afternoons. They're out on walkers. There are 2 bus stops on Biscayne. I mentioned that last time. 2 bus stops. Hundreds of cars. That is not going to work at all. Someone mentioned safety and looking at things. Did you do an environmental study? Did you do a traffic study? Did you look at DNR resources? I think these things need to be done before you decide that that is gonna work. Aside from not wanting this in our backyards, logistically and aesthetically. It's a huge drain on utilities, like has been mentioned. Emergency services, our first responders, our poor schools. 700 to, 600 to 1,000 kids potentially in Schulte and Case. That is going to raise the class sizes up, potentially cut the quality of education down, not to mention potentials for crime and everything else. Traffic accidents, it is impossible to get out and turn left onto Green Bay Road from our neighborhood. Cops are always sitting there because people fly. Now they're gonna be flying even more. I don't think that's been thought through. I didn't realize until today that there's gonna be some duplexes, which, okay. That screws down the comps when we go to sell our houses, because you can't compare the cost and the quality of a duplex to single-family homes that we have. So that's screwing with us in a whole different way than our taxes continuing to get raised while our property values go down. Someone mentioned last time also that we have our own Halloween celebration in our neighborhood. Everyone's out, barbecuing, grilling, friendly. If you try to drive in or out of our neighborhood as a resident, you cannot do it, because everyone from other neighborhoods is driving house to house with other kids. So now we'll have that, plus everyone from there in our neighborhood. That's not okay. Also, Mr. President, from sometime within the past 5 years, a similar project was brought up and you had said no to it because it was in your backyard. We are now you. We are now you.
What project was that?
A separate residential, or not residential, apartment complex. Going through the records, I know someone in the neighborhood, which is why I'm saying this.
Untrue.
I tried to figure out through the,
Untrue, but continue on. I resent that. Untrue.
going through the, I tried to go through to find it. I can't find anything like that.
Because it's not there. Carry on.
No, well, that was my last thing I had to say. But anyway, we can't ask, I noticed, but you can say stuff to us. Thank you.
May I hear from Lauren Linderman?
Lauren Lindeman, 6447 Carnation Court. I enjoyed the presentation. I didn't fully comprehend how that actually affects our neighborhood other than the sightlines, but it leads to the impression that somehow it eventually is going to connect to our subdivision. And with that, I have interesting questions about the traffic, because whether you're connecting to Oaks or you're connecting to Biscayne and even connecting to Braun, the whole traffic infrastructure is not set to handle that kind of load, because those roads are already busy. I don't know if you're trying to put in another stoplight, because as everyone said, trying to get out of our subdivision as it is nearly impossible at times. And I don't believe everybody's gonna have the patience to sit there, and as many times as I've driven home and seen bumpers in the median, like the last time I left this meeting, that's only going to get worse. Our subdivision also has no sidewalks, and so as far as traffic coming in, when people are they're walking in the neighborhood, they're on the street. So basically you're telling people you can't walk on Biscayne anymore. Yeah, I think that's about all I have. Thank you.
May I hear from Chad McGraw?
Chad McGraw, 3919 Old Green Bay Road. I have some significant concerns about the density in general. This is over 600 units for this development. You got the Bear development just down the road. That's going to be another 300 plus units. And then you already have the Seasons, which when phase 2 is complete is going to be well over 300 units. That's over 1,300 units total when it's all said and done in a very small area. It's probably going to be over 3,000 residents. It's a lot of traffic. It's a lot of people in a very small area. And that's not even considering any of the other developments in the community. So I have some very significant concerns about that. Traffic, people, crime, everything that goes along with it. I moved here from West Allis specifically to get out of the urban setting. And now it's kind of becoming a development of mega apartment complexes throughout the village. And it's not really why I moved here. It's not why a lot of the other people moved here either. So that's my biggest concerns. Thanks.
Can we hear from Tony Martino?
Tony Martino, 6710 Ron Road, Mount Pleasant. I've turned this over in my head more times than I can count. Here's kind of how I chose to approach tonight's meeting. If I ever chose to run for a trustee position and was fortunate enough to be elected by the people of Mount Pleasant, these are the questions I would need answered before I could vote to approve this rezoning with confidence. I'd need assurance that my decision balanced our future with our best interests of current residents who entrusted me with this great responsibility. Infrastructure. Where will funding come from for the required sewer, water, and road improvements? Given our current debt obligations, how can we afford this without increasing the village's debt load and thus interest costs funded by taxpayer dollars? At what level will residents along Braun be forced to cover costs of those connections to the utilities? Regarding the developer themselves, Cardinal Capital, what proves this is the right company to trust with a project of this scale? Their properties in Wisconsin have seen increased criminal activity, law enforcement calls, and consistent complaints from renters, neighbors, and even investors. Will it be slightly better here or worse? This would be their largest project, larger than the sum of their next 7 combined. If investor funding stalls, will this just lead to more destroyed farmlands and leave behind 60-acre gravel-filled parking lots like other failed or stalled projects in Mount Pleasant? At what point will purported market-rate luxury apartments transition to low-rent, subsidized housing? Is this a sound plan? Could it lead to more failed developments and barren lots like we've seen? On the location, is this the right area for a high-density rental housing? Village guidance says RH zoning should connect urban and suburban areas with access to major roadways and transportation. This location checks none of those boxes. It is currently a rural surrounded by low density and industrial zones, not urban. On the plan and the data, the original housing study dates back to 2017 and was based on Foxconn creating 13,000 jobs. 12,000 of those jobs never materialized. Today's proposal is unchanged despite that information. The more recent 2024 market analysis now cites 2,000 Microsoft jobs, which also appear stalled. That same report highlights a major shortage in ownership housing, not rentals. No one in this room would stand in the way of single-family homes on this parcel. That study recommends exploring TIF, land subsidies, or down payment assistance to help ownership-based housing succeed. The village loaned $4 million to Cardinal Capital to acquire this land, well above the market value of farmland. Imagine instead investing that in local residents. With an average home price of $450,000 and a 3.5% FHA down payment, that $4 million could create 254 new homeowners. On the impact of the project. This would be Cardinal's largest ever project, and by far the largest Mount Pleasant has ever seen. It will add 1,545 people per Racine County projections. That is a 5.6% population jump on what appears to be about 0.5% of the land of Mount Pleasant. Add the adjacent 300-unit proposal, and we're looking at 2,295 new residents, an 8.3% increase in population. All of those residents would be forced to commute east or west on Braun until the roads that will happen but won't happen at Biscayne and, excuse me. There are serious safety concerns regarding those entrances on Braun Road. Braun Road at that intersection where they would be coming out is a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit in this section. I requested a traffic study. It was not provided to me prior to this meeting. I would have liked to have that information. No other development, past or present, in Mount Pleasant proposes this level of density. Here's my take. Development is inevitable, but this is the wrong development for this area at this time. The risks, scale, and unanswered questions outweigh the potential reward. High-density rental may be easy money, but what our community truly needs is more owner-occupied housing. Sometimes the harder path is the better one for the long term. To the trustees fortunate enough tonight to serve, I ask you to agree there are simply too many concerns and unresolved issues to approve this residential high-density zoning. The risks are real, the questions are many, and the reward is unclear at best. But your decision tonight will last for generations. Thank you.
Can I hear from Heather Monson?
I'm Heather Munson. I live at 3816 Blossom Drive. Some of the things that weren't touched on or kind of touched on, you know, a lot of your presentation was about, you know, making it softer. We're going to make it softer. That just shows me they know it's a monstrosity, that it's not what fits into the climate in that area. Making that softer doesn't help that. We didn't even talk about the added traffic with Woodman's coming in. We have a lot of traffic in roads that are just not made for it. And these aren't always going to be new. I suggest that people look at what high density turns into. It's not usually great, not to mention a lot of the research that I looked at. These big, huge complexes are usually right on the interstate, which is what they were saying that kind of zoning alludes to. And then lastly, back to the, it's not always going to be new. A lot of the reviews that I looked at for this company have really declined. They've all said, used to be good, not so great. Management of the properties, not so good. I don't want that in my backyard. It'll be right behind me. And honestly, I've already looked into selling. I don't want it. I don't think anyone here does. We understand that single-family homes may be, or would always be, what was probably going to happen. This is not what we want. Thank you.
Jody Ruffalo, I'll give you the last word.
My name is Jody Hoffman Ruffalo, and I am the resident of Mount Pleasant. I live at 7003 Braun Road, directly across the street. I share the same address. Currently, I am the only active livestock farm that's left in this area, this side of 90th Street on Braun Road. I moved to Mount Pleasant nearly 10 years ago and to this farm 5 years ago, after receiving guidance from the village. When I was searching for a property suitable for raising livestock, dairy cattle, beef cattle, horses, poultry, I was advised by the village to consider Braun Road. I had been looking at a different property at the time, but I was directed to this location because it was believed to be more appropriate for farming. I was told about the planned condo developments at the end of 31, but no other significant developments were disclosed. Based on the village's recommendation, or the village representative that I talked to on their recommendation, I purchased the farm at 7003 Braun Road. Since moving here, my family and I have Since moving here, my family and I have grown to love this land, my neighbors, and the surrounding community. However, I am deeply concerned about the proposed development of high-density housing, condos, and apartments directly across the street from me. If I had known a project of this scale was going to be considered, I would have never moved here. While I understand and really support reasonable residential development, a high-density project that looks like places in Waukesha and Franklin is entirely out of character for our rural neighborhood. It would not only change the landscape and the nature of the community, but it would severely impact my farm and the well-being of my animals. Livestock are sensitive to stress. Increased traffic, noise, and human activity can lead to distress, decreased productivity, illness, and death in cattle and horses. My ability to enjoy and responsibly use my land for its intended agricultural purpose would be significantly compromised if such a development. I believe property owners have a legal and ethical right to a peaceful and practical enjoyment of their land. Moreover, the influx of traffic, estimated at over 600 additional vehicles, raises serious safety concern, not for only my animals, but but pedestrians, drivers, and children in the area. The 2 proposed driveways point right at my cattle and horses pastures. Traffic going in and out all times of the day, including at night, will definitely cause distress to my livestock during their resting hours. This type of development belongs in areas already designed for high density, such as the city of Racine, not in our quiet rural community like ours. I understand that the village has allocated $4 million to assist Cardinal Capital Management in acquiring this property. However, that financial decision should not come at the expense of the rural character, safety, agricultural viability of our community. There is still a strong demand for traditional family-sized homes in this area, which would be far more compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. I respectfully urge the village to reconsider this development, preserve the rural integrity of our community, protect the livelihood of us farmers, protect the livelihood of us farmers, and contribute to the local economy and culture. And please do not bring any more of these high condos and apartments to Mount Pleasant. We have so many, especially when near developments like Seasons remained under occupied. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else willing to speak that hasn't signed up that wish to say something? I'll need your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is Jatwan Pinson. I live at 6558 San Marino Drive in the region. I know we said a lot, and I was late, sorry, had to work. But I just wanted you all to consider some of the faces of the people that you're impacting if you do decide to go with this project. I know a lot of times you look at bottom lines, plans, but really, really think about the lives, the community, that you will be impacting. So I just wanted to show faces, and not just us homeowners, our children, just our sense of community. I just want to show faces. Think about the faces. Thanks.
Thank you. Say again? Did you want to add on to your original comments? Mic up, please. Yeah.
Should I restate my name?
Yes, please.
Megan Bray, 3718 Blossom Drive. I spent the whole afternoon working on this, and my kids kept being like, why? What's the point? The general consensus of the neighborhood is they made up their mind. Why bother? So the lack of people you see here is not reflective of their beliefs in wanting this. It's reflective of their beliefs in believing you care about what they want. So the fact that there are as many people here is really because they were like, they obviously already made up their mind. They already gave them the land. What's the point? And I just do not want the lack of people that you see here to think that it reflects them being for this development. Because our Facebook neighborhood page suggests that all 90 homes are very against it. They just don't all see the value in coming here to speak out. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Last call for anybody else? Anybody else wishing to speak? And I need your name and address too for the record.
Yep. Okay. Good evening, members of the board and neighbors. My name is Angie Popa, and I reside at 3842 Blossom Drive, and a member of the Regent Subdivision HOA Board. I'm here tonight to express my deep concerns about the proposed 600-plus unit apartment development behind our neighborhood. First, I want to address the infrastructure impact. Who will pay for the significant costs expanding the sewer and water lines? Will these costs fall under the current residents through higher taxes and utility bills? If complications arise during the construction, who's accountable for that? Who will be our point of contact? What about Brown Road? Who's gonna pay for that expansion? We know Brown Road cannot handle this today. Secondly, our subdivision is currently a dead end, making it a safe place for our children. Opening a new road will mean more cars, more speeding, more risk. What are plans in place to enforce traffic safety? Will there be an increase in police, fire, and other essential services to match the higher population? This is obviously gonna also increase our taxes. We also only have one active livestock property on Brown Road. High-density apartment complex will disrupt not only the environment of these animals, but also the rural character and the way life that defines our village. Many of us moved to Mount Pleasant for its rural village feel, not to live in a city. The constant additions of large apartment complexes is changing the very nature of our community. What is the current occupancy rate of these new units? Are we building more than what we need, and if so, why? Additionally, I'm concerned about the potential impact of our schools, which could become overcrowded, and the strain on our village services like road maintenance and parks. High-density development can also increase flooding and runoff, harming our local environment and wildlife. Finally, I ask each of you on the board, would you welcome this project of this scale into your backyard, your children's backyard, or your grandchildren's backyard? Would you feel comfortable with these changes it brings to your quality of life? I urge you to consider the real and lasting impact of this development we have on our community, our rural character, our services, and even our animals. Please find an alternative location that does not disrupt the safety, character, and well-being of our neighborhood. And Lee, very much respect for you. However, you live in Caledonia, not in Mount Pleasant. Thank you.
I see somebody raising their hand. Did you wish to say anything? Would you come up, please? Same deal for you, name and address for the record.
Hi, sorry I have nothing prepared because I didn't expect to come up here. I am a resident of the Seasons. My husband and I moved actually from out of country. We really were drawn to the area because it was farmlands. That's where we were from originally. We love all the rural around us. How busy Braun has been in the past 2.5 years is insane. With the Microsoft being built, like when you turn from Green Bay onto Braun and you can see down Braun to the horizon, it is cars like lined up. It's insane. Our community, the Seasons, is building phase 2. As far as I know, phase 1 has never been full occupancy. Crime has increased since we moved there. Police calls are coming in all the time. I do like the community, but it's getting bigger and it's not feeling like a community anymore. And I can't imagine the size of this one, how it's gonna feel. It's just, like, the residents at the Seasons, we even go to the clubhouse, we try and talk to the people there about, you know, talking to other people within the Seasons community, getting people together to care about the ponds. Like, I really love nature. I do the WAVE, it's a water action volunteer where I test the waters in the Pike River. It's polluted, it's lacking in the critters that show that it's a healthy water. It is not a healthy water. Sorry, I'm getting worked up. It's hard because we just moved here and we love this area and we hate to see it get overpopulated. And it's just a beautiful place, and I agree with everything everyone said tonight. Thanks.
Anybody else? Gentleman raising his hand. Name and address for the record.
Tom Popa, 3842 Blossom Drive. For over 30 years now, I've been providing for my family as a union carpenter. And over the years, I've built projects like this. And just a couple years after they're built, they're no longer luxury apartments anymore because they go underpopulated. You go to Sturtevant, Highway 11, underpopulated. Northwestern Avenue, we did the Horlick Malt Project. So it was an industrial community there. So there was no land that was overtaken. We remodeled some buildings, built new buildings. There's still a 5th building waiting to go up, but they can't go up because the other buildings are way underpopulated. If this was full, you got 618 units, that's just say 3 per unit, 2,000 people, again, 1,000 cars. Nobody realizes that when you pull out of our subdivision, cars coming from the north headed south, 35 miles an hour. Coming from Kenosha to the north, they're coming in at 55 miles an hour. That's why it's hard for us to maneuver there. If something could happen about that in the future, that would be very acceptable for us, just on 31. But I want to save you guys some money, okay? Because it's hard to fill them. Thank you.
Anybody else? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up. Okay, not hearing from anybody else, we can close the public meeting, or public hearing on this, and we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve ordinance 6-2025, amending the zoning map for 7003 and 7222 Brown Road as presented.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. Boy, we've heard from a lot of people, by my count, what, 15, 16 or so, and yeah, we'll have a roll call, but we're going to have probably 45 minutes of discussion first, because we're taking up your comments, and we're weighing those with the developer's wishes, and we'll probably be reaching out to Mr. Schultz, the development director. We may be looking for a legal opinion on some things as well, so we're going to have a robust conversation. Who wants to go first? First off, when Sam, Mr. Schultz, made his presentation, he asked for questions. And so if we want to direct questions, specific questions to him first, we could do that. We can call the developer up if we have any more questions of him. And the board can weigh in as they wish too. I don't know whether I should go from north to south or east to west here. But if somebody wants to jump in first or have a question for Sam, or Sam, if you heard anything that you wanted to clarify, maybe that might be a good place to start.
I think Denise has a question.
Actually, I was going to ask Sam if he could go over again the next steps, that this is just rezoning. This isn't approving the actual project that they presented, that's just a starting point?
Correct. That is a concept plan at this time. They would need to submit a preliminary subdivision plat, which shows the division of the property. That's typically the time at which the village requires a traffic impact analysis. There was a lot of questions about traffic. So with that preliminary plat, we see a traffic impact analysis because that's when a developer is putting together engineering. So a traffic engineer can look at their proposed intersections, all the sizes and shapes where they're going, and do those projections. They would submit that with their application at that time. After that,
And that goes to the planning commission?
the preliminary plat with those traffic projections and all the other details for the plat would go to the Plan Commission. They make a recommendation to the village board, and then the village board approves it or denies it based on the ordinances, the land division ordinances, and your own prerogatives at that time. If you chose to approve the preliminary plat, say we all come to a plan that everyone can agree on and the village board approves it, then the applicant would finalize their detailed civil and stormwater plans and submit that to the Public Works Department for review. So Tony and his staff review those civil plans for compliance with our stormwater regulations, our village road regulations, et cetera. Once that is completed, typically they come back with a final plat. That is kind of the final permission from the village board. That goes to the Plan Commission and village board, and that's your final permission to move forward with the development and subdivide the property at that time. When you approve that final plat, they can take that downtown to the Register of Deeds and record it so new lots can be created. With that final plat, the village requires a development agreement that guarantees that they construct the roads and utilities within the development to the village standard. It also provides a time where we typically capture a bond or a letter of credit for them to install those public utilities and make sure that they do so. If they stop, the village can pull on that to complete the work. And it's also the time at which the Public Works Department will inspect them while they put in those public improvements. That is the platting process. In addition to all of that, a developer would need to submit site and building plans on each of the individual parcels they create. And those get reviewed by the village planning staff and the village building inspectors for compliance with our zoning regulations as well as the building code. And then they are able to pull building permits and construct those after they receive approval or denial on their plans. So I would say at this time, they're on stage 1 of maybe step 5 or 6. If that's a good summary.
So the developer bears the cost of the infrastructure.
That is the assumption that the code makes, yes.
I just wanted to clarify a few things that people have brought up as questions. And also I want to mention that we've had another pretty dense proposal that came before the board in the last year, and that has actually ended up changing quite a bit from the density of it ended up changing quite a bit as it went through this process because the board did not approve the original density. So we do listen. Tonight we're voting on the rezoning, but all of the decisions about the traffic and which roads are going to go through when, those are down the road.
So to speak.
Mr.
So to speak. Down the road.
Down the road, yes.
Okay.
Mr. President, if I could clarify, I also heard some questions on, and I'm sorry if I was confusing or how I phrased it, but on the Biscayne connection. What I meant to say is this development would not connect Biscayne all the way through at this time. It would stop on either property boundary. So there's still a property in the middle where Biscayne would not connect. In the future, the comprehensive plan does show Biscayne connecting through. So at some point, whenever that farm field might develop, the comprehensive plan's starting point is essentially you would connect Biscayne east to west. And that goes from 31, if we're talking about west of State Trunk Highway 31, what the comprehensive plan shows is extending west from 31 all the way to where a future extension of Oaks Road would take place. And that's been on the plan since before I've been at the village. Biscayne is actually sized as a collector street. It's wider than some of the other streets in there. Curb to curb, it's about 44 feet, and the right-of-way is 80 feet, which goes out to 100 feet near the intersection with 31. So Biscayne, when it was platted, was built as a collector street. The internal streets are a local street 66. That's not to say that the neighbors' concerns are invalid or there might be traffic calming measures that would be warranted for future development. And we can certainly walk through those as a part of that platting engineering design process. So, we're listening to that, but I wanted to clarify my comments on Biscayne. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you. We're doing what we can to address your needs. Again, this is time for the board to speak. I'm not going to be taking questions from those gathered in chambers. Go ahead, Ron.
Mr. President Sam, I want to clarify, you just mentioned that that Biscayne Road, right now with this development, it doesn't connect, and my understanding is there's about 500 feet of farmland, vacant land. My question to you is, you just made a comment that in the comprehensive plan in the future, whatever that may be, it will get connected. So my question is, just because it's in the comprehensive plan, does it have to be connected, or would that be depending upon what development comes into that area?
I think the answer to your question is yes. The village board and the plan commission always have the opportunity to amend the comprehensive plan.
I just wanted to make sure that, yes.
So you could
that would
direct
be a
staff to
possibility.
amend it.
Yeah.
You know, we would certainly want to investigate the downstream consequences of amending that comprehensive plan. Right now, there is shown that east-west connectivity. So I think if you chose to do that, we'd certainly want to think through how else are we providing internal connectivity east-west so we're not forcing all the traffic onto Braun Road, because that creates other traffic issues and stress on those intersections. So it is a balance, but the board can, you know, modify the comprehensive plan or direct staff to go through that process. Also, to answer the second half of your question, when a developer comes in, you know, we default to the comprehensive plan, but in the past, the practice has been for the village to work with potential developers. So based on site conditions, there could be wetlands out there that we don't know about, for example, in which case the developer might want to bend the road. It doesn't go straight east-west because they would want to avoid a wetland. So we typically try to work with developers at those times to look at site-specific conditions as they come up and stay flexible. In summary, what we tend to tell developers when they come in and reference the roads section of the comprehensive plan is we care more about connections and less about exact locations. And that's where we try to stay flexible and, you know, work through issues.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sam, could you clarify the agreement and the infrastructure costs? That seems to be a major concern. I don't know if you quite answered it earlier on.
The existing agreement with the developer or the standard subdivision process?
The existing agreement.
The existing agreement does say that the village would bring sewer down Braun Road if the developer moves forward next spring. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes, and it also requires the developer to create certain values of the property by certain years, and if they don't, they have to make what we call a make-up payment or differential payment to cover the cost for that.
Good. You're good? Okay. Down in the end there, did you have anything to add?
Sure,
Dave?
yeah, no, and, you know, it's interesting, and I'm looking at it a little different on, as far as the aspect of the property, and more as, a year ago, I was not on the board, and I was out in an audience trying to understand what the board is talking about, and I would hear a lot of things that were talked about, and even today, and knowing that I wanted to come on the board to help people and to help understand. When you say that, you know, I heard talks about, well, once the board flips over, we'll finally be better. Once we get all new board, you know, there's a lot of things. When I went on in September, I walked around and got some votes so I could try to get elected to the board, and I was really hoping I would have 2 or 3 individuals that were running against me. There was none. There was about 6,000 votes out of 28,000 people in Mount Pleasant. So when we talk about how we want to be there for the people, we're there for the 28,000 people. And they're, yes, we understand that it is in your backyard, and when I say us, I mean me. You know, I look at all this and understand that, but I also have to look at the other individuals throughout the community as well. And, you know, there was talk, well, just put it in somebody else's backyard, not mine. Well, again, anywhere else is gonna be somewhere else where there's gonna be people just like that. Just like when your subdivision went up, there was people behind your cornfield that probably had that same thought. Oh my God, they're gonna put in 90 homes, 100 homes. This is gonna be horrible. We're never gonna get on Green Bay Road. So there's a lot of things that you do have to look at and understand. And I wanna tell you that working with these individuals, you don't realize how good of a group of individuals you have for the village. Sam and the police force, the fire department, all these individuals work so hard. And when I hear things that are told up here and I know are not accurate, you know, it's just like you guys were on to say, you know, we don't want to answer questions. There's a lot of things that I look at and listen and go, wow, that's not accurate. But they're able to give the reasoning and clarify that. So I am up here as to vote and do what is in the best interest of the entire village, and also look at the different sections as they go. So definitely hearing it, but you really got to understand when you're sitting up here, these people are awesome. They know what they're talking about, and when we hear, oh, we don't even know if this street's going to do this or that, or you know, they haven't even looked at the traffic. Yes, there's been a lot of work. It's not like they just said, hey, you know, let's just give our buddy this job because it's, you know, who we want to give it to. There's a lot that goes behind this. And to that point, there is a lot of public meetings that go on. All of the meetings that go on for those different things are posted, and people have an opportunity. I sat through a lot of different meetings where
It's
there's
excuse me, it's our time to debate this. I need quiet.
yeah, and there's a lot of
We
meetings
respected you. I need you to respect the board's conversation now. Thank you.
the Public Works, all these different places have meetings. I went to Public Works meetings. I think I've seen one or two individuals that come into the Public Works meeting. I invite you guys, please, come into these meetings and listen to these individuals and what they're doing and what is going on for your community and what they are doing to ensure that they are doing what is in the best interest of the community. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
All right, so Sam, I got one question, then I'm gonna talk about something on this, so I just did a question for him. We're talking about Biscayne going through at some point in time, if the farmer, whoever owns that land, sells it to a developer and then it's developed. That's down the road. My curiosity is Oaks, and is there any kind of any timeline on Oaks being developed where traffic gets rerouted through Braun over to Oaks up to Walmart in that area?
Yeah, Oaks, there's a pending application for zoning from Bear that's up later this month. That'll have a public hearing. The concept plan they submitted shows Oaks extending from its current southern terminus, right by past Goodwill, by that concrete batch plant that's down there. It would extend south towards Braun Road. So if that development moves forward, that would be likely within the next couple years that extension would take place. You'd be able to go from Braun north to 11 or 11 south to Braun via that Oaks Road connection. That connection is one of the few in the village that's identified as one of regional importance. Oaks Road is shown from connecting from 31 all the way north to Caledonia through a variety of, it's a little bit patchy teeth right now, but that's the long-term plan. That goes all the way up to like sewer pack level regional planning to provide that kind of secondary access point from 31. So each portion might take a bit of a different time. Bear just constructed the very southern end on 31 last year and this year. But the next chunk that is most likely to move forward be that Braun north up to where it currently ends.
Okay, thank you. And then I've heard the talk about the traffic study today. And that with the young lady that lives in the Seasons that talked about what's going on there and that you're not fully occupied. I've heard that they were. So it's very surprising to hear from someone that lives there that you're not fully occupied. With what we did with Old Green Bay, a year and a couple of months ago, they came in, they wanted to develop off Old Green Bay, and we kicked it back because the plan was pretty terrible. And then they came a second time when we said, come back in a year. They came a second time, a few months later, and we said, nope, we didn't like it. Denise was talking about this one. And they came back a third time, and it got passed through. And then later, we asked for a traffic study to be done with the plot survey, and we never heard about the traffic survey. But they came and reduced the density without us even hearing about the traffic study. On this project, something's gonna get developed. It's gotta be developed, it's out there, it's gotta get developed. The discussion we had in the meeting prior to this, we talked about making sure that that development is lower density so that it's not affecting your neighborhood as it would be if you had the high density right there. I'm listening to everybody and thinking about this and where I live and what I would want and talking about representing all of our constituents. I think at this point, I'm gonna urge that developers actually consider, and we consider as a board, not this high density, but one step down, reduce it a little bit to ease off, because why do we put in the high density and then we do the traffic study? We should be saying, okay, we wanna do high density, maybe we do the traffic study first to see how much effective. And right now, Biscayne, that's only theoretical, because we wouldn't really know. So I think what we really have to do is say, maybe we don't do, sorry guys, high density here. Maybe we take it a step down and we can still have a very valuable, nice development, and it's not affecting the area as much as high density would affect the area and traffic patterns. And that's all I have.
Trustee Washburn, you wish to?
Sure. I originally had a number of different notes. I've thought long and hard about knowing we'd be meeting your neighborhood again. And one of the things that I have pointed out to my fellow trustees, not only on this project, but in many other zonings that we've been faced with, is that very few of them, they were living here, many of you all were living here in the community back in 1998, 1996, 1998, but I was working in the community. And I was working with a large developer builder. I remember in 2002, when I believe it's TID 2 was created, and the idea of TID 2 was to run utilities down Highway 20, sewer and water down Highway 20 to I-94. Now we drive that corridor and you take it for granted. There's Quick Trip, there's hotels, there's the Eye, there's car dealers, there's businesses, there's an industrial park. All of those things came because the members of the town board at that time saw the need to bring those utilities down the road for the future. The housing study that was done, you mentioned one from 2017. Well, it's interesting to me that the housing study, at the same time we were doing the TID 2 study for running the sewer and water down Highway 20, we were also doing housing studies at that time. And the projections at that time, in 2004, the studies were done by the same people doing them today. Racine Economic Development Corp., in conjunction with a number of other agencies and associations. In 2004, it said that we were 25,000 housing starts short in Racine County. Now that's Racine County. Yorkville has a population of 2,000. Mount Pleasant at the time had a population that was significantly less. But our population today is almost 28,000 people. And we are the second largest village in the state of Wisconsin. The housing boom that started at that early 2000s and ended in 2008, when you look at the housing starts over a period of time, over the last 20 years, even with that housing boom, our highest year of units, of building permits being pulled, was a combination of single-family, 2-unit, and 5 to 8 unit buildings. And there were 381 permits or units pulled. You go to 2024, where we all have seen this influx of high density, higher density, the seasons, whatever. And in 2024, there were only 130 permits pulled in the village of Mount Pleasant. So even though we feel like there's been a big impact of growth, it's been slow and over time. Going back to 2011, which was the lowest year of permits in that 30-year range, we pulled 29 permits in 2011. So the scale changes, the demand and so forth changes. We don't reach out to developers and say, hey, there's a piece of property over here, we think you ought to try and buy it and put 19 units to the acre on it. Those projects come to us. It's because the developer, in whatever his way, has reached out to a property owner, and there has been an agreement made between them, and the developers then come to us. So the bottom line is that the housing studies that we've been doing recently still show us low on housing starts. With the advent of Microsoft as well as Foxconn. Foxconn started it, and Microsoft finished the demand for our community. We are under siege. There are developers looking at every large tract of property in this community. They come in and talk to our planners. They may not make it this far, but they are out there, they're everywhere, and they're not gonna stop. We have Microsoft. So unfortunately, the Brown Road area is even more under siege because it's right down the road. You have the Pike River there. I know about the quality of the Pike River because my family, 20 acres of our property is now part of the Pike. And I have a parking lot next to my house. And I was a trustee when this happened, and I didn't want that parking lot, and I didn't get my way. So I now get to have people park next to my house while they're off enjoying the Pike River. It's a very valuable asset. And that's why there's 325 units being built on the east side of it, with connectivity to it and for the quiet enjoyment and use of that neighborhood to enjoy the Pike. So rather than argue with the connectivity, rather than argue with the neighbors, rather than bring forth information that helps me make the decisions I make here, I'm going to just simply leave it that I'm in favor of the zoning. I think that this whole area is going to be looked at now as a jigsaw puzzle that's going to be filled in. I can assure you that the Plan Commission is going to look very hard at Brown Road, how it's going to be rebuilt, when it's going to be rebuilt, and who's going to pay for it. And I can assure you that traffic counts are going to show that the burden of traffic is going to be distributed all over the place. Some of it's going to go east and west, some of it's going to go south, but the burden of traffic over time is going to be well dispersed. And we need to know how and what those studies are going to show. So, as I said, I know that the Regent neighborhood, I remember when it was built, I remember the developer that built it. And at one time, you know, this was also gonna be extended, and Biscayne Drive was always, our avenue was always in the plan to be a major, local arterial to connect to the east and west, just as Oaks Road is determined to be a major collector running north and south. So in that regard, I'm in favor of the project, and I thank you.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to thank everybody here for being civil. And you know, it sounds like a simple request, but we've had meetings in the past where things were decidedly very uncivil. I mean, I've been to a few of those rodeos. I've chaired them. So I want to thank you for that. I would, with one exception, I would be remiss if I didn't hail back to a couple of meetings back where Mr. Martino alleged that Director Schultz was a liar. And he didn't let it go, he repeated it. And that just does not work well in these chambers. That's not how we do business. Mr. Schultz, our Tony, Director of Public Works, the rest of our staff don't have the ability to hit back and defend themselves. You know, so that comes to the board to answer for them and myself, and you know, so I'll speak for them. These guys work tremendously hard. They are very dedicated professionals. They know what they're doing. And you know, sometimes when we come to a public meeting, we just think that these that we're still a town, that the loudest voice is what gets through, and the loudest voice is what makes the decision. And it's just simply not true. We became a village back in 2003, I think. It's a good 20 years ago. And day by day, we continue working to become more professional. And we have a heavy responsibility being a village of 28,000 people. And everybody has different wants and needs. Nobody is ever thoroughly happy with how things are going, but we do try our best, and our staff is, and it's been mentioned by a couple of our other trustees, are the best that we can find, and they're damn good at what they do. Mr. Armillo and his people. I know Lee pretty well, and he has a reputation, and he wants to uphold his reputation as being an upstanding citizen, a pretty darn good former baseball player, and a good developer. So when I look at this, and I'm trying my best to filter out, what's real and what's not real. There's a number of, things that I've heard along the way that come to mind. And when somebody is proposing a very high-level development, luxury apartments, as they're called, and to hear, folks in the chamber here, saying that there's going to be garbage, there's going to be crime. Folks, for some reason, think that when you have a large apartment complex, that we're talking about Cabrini Green and low income housing. I heard that come up again and again, particularly in the meeting a couple back. I suppose if I want to use the Tony Martino definition, whoever was, talking about low-income housing was lying. And I know that stings when I say that. So maybe I can be a little bit more charitable and say, those that are talking about low-income housing are just severely misinformed. And that's about as gentle as I can be about it. Again, it's our debate at this point. We've given you every consideration. You're not going to. You're right. And you've mentioned Sam's name, and you've mentioned our names, and you've called us out. No, sir.
I was informed today that the investigation is still ongoing. So, did someone misinform me?
Again.
I know it doesn't fit your narrative, sir, but you mentioned my name directly multiple times.
I'm going to ask you to be quiet, and if you can't be quiet, I'm going to ask you to leave. I'm going to ask you to be quiet. You don't have a right to just speak out at a meeting when you've already had your chance to speak, and we are now debating your issue. That's how the rule works. That's how the statute is set up for public meeting at a board meeting. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry. Again. No, there won't be. We've been trying to answer your questions as asked. I've heard, I've heard comments about sweetheart deals and all that. There's no truth to that. Again, you've already heard. Excuse me. You've already heard that road extension isn't going through at this time. Well, of course, those road extensions have been in the plans for a decade, if not longer. I've heard about dropping property values. Again, if we go out to the Seasons, if we go out to Tivoli Green down the road here, the facts just don't match up with that. People's houses have gone up in value. People are not getting all of the traffic through their subdivision as they thought that they would, because they're coming in and out of the designated entrances for Tivoli Green. I've got a suggestion for you, and you might not like this, but if you're bound and determined to keep that road from going through, and again, this is about a zoning thing. We have not gone into any of the subdivision particulars yet, because he has the zoning in order to present the plan that he's looking for, which, as has been pointed out, we can amend. No.
That's the plan right there.
So, I get it that you want to understand it. And there's, as Mr. Schultz has pointed out, we're in step one of it. And you're asking for way beyond step one.
There is a law that the state has and the village has on how public hearings are conducted. This is not a town meeting. And the way the law is set up is that everyone who would like to speak can have their chance to speak. And then the public hearing is closed, and then the elected officials get to speak. And it is not a back and forth. And so that is what the village president, I believe, is trying to explain here on how these meetings work.
Thank you. The board has discussed that, and that's, and those are future considerations. And again, if I may continue, what really hasn't been said or was brushed off is that this is a $150 million development as it's initially proposed, and yes, part of balancing needs are taxable real estate. $150 million of taxable real estate. And again, I'm not a math major, but just my quick thumbnail sketch to the village, that means income to the village of about $1 million. And that's important because, you know, that's added to the levy and you're not paying for it. There would be another $1 million or thereabouts going to the schools from the same property taxes, which goes a long ways towards addressing any thoughts or concerns of overpopulating schools. This in a time when schools are actually losing enrollment in the Racine area. I get it that you know, people don't like more traffic because their kids are playing in the street. At one point in time, I was a kid. I played on the street and I looked both ways for traffic. However, if you're bound and determined to keep that connection from going through, maybe you might want to think about having a conversation with the farmer that owns the land between you and this development. Buy his land. Put together some kind of first right of refusal. That's something that your homeownership group can do. But you might want to start that conversation. It's a lot of money. But if if you're that determined to keep your neighborhood as your neighborhood with no pass-throughs, that's a pretty good way of doing it. Because if you own that land, then we can't put the road through. So at this point in time, I think we've heard from the board. Did you want to just add? I'll give you the last word.
Okay, the only thing I want to say is obviously we're sitting here and we're listening to everything you say. I know some of you personally. I've been in similar situations in the past where I built a home back in 1992, and we are listening. But the fact of the matter is that tonight is just for rezoning. That's what we're doing tonight. There's a long ways to go. You see plans here, they aren't the final plans. And as was mentioned on this board tonight, we've had other developments come in that we've made or haven't voted in favor of what was presented to us. So this has a long ways to go. We are simply talking about the rezoning tonight, and I am in favor of that, so I'll be up front. That's where my vote's gonna go. That development of some sort's going to happen there. We're just not to the final stage yet. But we are listening, and we encourage you to attend meetings, come and do, you have 5 minutes to stand up here and what you thought you heard tonight and you want to rebuttal, come back at our next meeting, and you can do it next time for 5 minutes. Put together what you hear up here, what you disagree with, or additional questions that you have, or catch us, or the staff in the hallway and talk to us. But we are listening, and we want what's best for Mount Pleasant.
Just to be clear, public hearings, when there's a public hearing like the one today, every person has 5 minutes. If there's not a public hearing on the agenda, there's still a public comment period, and anyone could talk about whatever they want, and that's 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
Good?
That's all.
All right, so on, excuse me, on the question of ordinance 6-2025, which is the zoning map amendment for 7003 and 7222 Brown Road, roll call vote.
Venturini.
Aye.
Karas.
Aye.
Doxy.
Nay.
Washburn.
Aye.
Anastasio.
Aye.
Bhatia.
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye, that passes 6-1. Okay, I just need, wait a minute, yep. Discussion possible, motion regarding resolution 12-2025, amending the 2025 budget and authorizing, entering into an agreement with the McMahon Associates for the fire chief recruitment and selection process.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve Resolution 12-2025, amending the 2025 budget and authorizing entering into an agreement with McMahon Associates Incorporated for the fire chief recruitment and selection process.
Second.
So I hear a motion second. We discussed that at length at the committee of the whole meeting. Yeah. Pardon? Mary, if you just wanted to touch on the highlights of that.
Sure. So as everybody knows, our our fire chief is leaving us. So we are looking to engage McMahon. The Police and Fire Commission had made the recommendation for moving forward with McMahon. This is who we used the last search. They are the ones this afternoon that gave us the presentation on the organizational study. So they're very familiar with the village. So that's what we're recommending, obviously, to move the funds because we didn't anticipate the fire chief leaving, so there were not funds in the budget originally for the recruitment.
Okay. Since it's a, lost my place. Since it's a resolution, I'll call the vote on that unless anybody has any quick questions. Okay, so I need a roll call.
Venturini.
Aye.
Karas.
Aye.
Doxy.
Aye.
Washburn.
Aye.
Anastasio.
Aye.
Bhatia.
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye, so that motion carries. I need one last motion.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
So I hear a motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.